Hi, everyone. This is a Wednesday video, the shock of it all. And I'm just going to say a couple things about the works cited. As they're coming in, some of you are doing great work. And if yours is formatted right and you've got good sources, I'm adding it onto the document that I've sent you in announcements. I know you're hanging on to those announcements. Anyway, so the reason we're looking at sources and the reason you read the article, social media has not destroyed a generation, is because it's time we recognize as academic writers that the relationship of evidence to overall conclusions in the social science is a bit tenuous. And as you saw with that question about do smartphones cause depression, that's a good example of how when human beings are involved, there are so many variables that it is very hard to isolate cause and effect and get a real airtight relationship between the two. Therefore, when we're doing academic writing, if I ever write on your essay that's overgeneralized, everyone compares themselves on social media, and you got to go a little easy on that. So I'm going to share a document with you. It's in the class notes if you want to look at that. Just make sure that you use phrases like the evidence suggests or it points in the direction, and then you can use your story or your observation to bolster that up. In my experience, this jibes with my experience, or, but you can't say because I was able to contact family and friends, social media is great. That sort of cause and effect is very leaky. Your boat is going to sink. So that's why we have suggests and points towards, and also why when we're discussing these things and when social scientists are designing experiments to uncover trends in this way, they're really working hard to design those experiments to eliminate as many variables as possible. So anyway, so you can see in the, let me just share the screen. So this was the Huberman lab. I sent that to you already. That's something else. But here's the question that you had to answer. Do you think smartphones or social media are responsible for depression? So I set you up for big fall. I was trying to trick you into overgeneralizing. And it's not that you can't generalize. It's that you need to be very delicate and articulate with the word choice and the way in which you come to, and I won't even call them conclusions, but, sort of ideas about trends that may or may not exist. So this student writes, I believe that smartphones or social media are not responsible. Okay, so the problem with that is it rules out the idea that they could play a part, which of course is true. They could play a part. So you can't say definitively they're not responsible, nor can you say definitively they are responsible for every problem we've ever had. Because sometimes we go to social media and just go, it's terrible. Facebook's under a lot of scrutiny these days. Anyway, and Instagram is always leveling the claim that the comparison between people is, overwhelming, et cetera. And then people make arguments about addiction and how much time and for what purpose. And then what age are you? Are you a man or a woman? Variables, people, variables. So anyways, so here, let's just look at, I just jotted down some verbiage here just to kind of call to mind how you have to keep your mind open while you don't draw, overgeneralized conclusions. So after evaluation of the scope of evidence presented by so-and-so, whatever it is you've just been looking like, it seems unlikely that smartphones or social media are primarily responsible for depression. Now that's depending on what you've written before that, but this is the kind of language where you're not saying this is the way things are because I know it, because I have been on social media. That is not going to be an academic stance. You can have that conversation with people, but it doesn't fly in academia. Okay, so what we call it is entering the academic conversation, where you're going to be called to the carpet, where did that saying come from? To say, where are you getting this idea? So, in science, it's very clear that scientists who are studying, the cures for cancer and they isolate variables so they can study very tiny mechanisms as they build out ideas about how the whole is functioning. So, I mean, we can take our analogy from biology and, the hard sciences, as they call them, and in the humanities and social sciences, that's never quite going to be the case. It's going to be, fraught with the messiness as of humans. Okay. So don't be a claimant. Yeah, I said, don't be a claimant that the internet or social media is a group dynamics are good or bad. That's not the question. It's what's the trend? What can you make a case for? A compelling case for suggesting, a tendency. And some of you naturally are able to navigate this little quicksand, this little minefield of language. But if I've ever written to you on your papers and saying overgeneralizing, that's what I'm pointing towards. Okay, so personal anecdote, love it. We got the insight. Very, very nice in an essay. It makes, in any kind of paper, it makes things much more readable and relatable and all those kind of good phrases. But it can't be the basis upon which you draw a generalization. And you can't just assume generalizations, kind of embed them in your writing. Okay, so here we go. So then I'm also sending you this, talk about science, this Huberman Lab, maximizing productivity, physical and mental health with daily tools. So I just sent this to you, and you don't have to listen to the whole thing. You can look at this very handy timestamps. Some of it is about looking at the sun first thing in the morning. And this guy, Andrew Huberman, is an ophthalmologist and a neuroscientist, and he only uses peer-reviewed studies. He's going with science all the way. He's not going to suggest that, you take any steps that aren't, proven, tried and true, not tried and true in the lab. Anyway, I thought that would be interesting for some of you who are writing about that. Okay, so that's what I've got for you today. Also, the works cited, I recognize that the format can be tricky with the indenting, but I will tell you this, as far as whether the whole thing is double spaced or single spaced, it doesn't matter to me because I have seen it both ways in academic MLA. I guess the MLA can't quite come to a conclusion, and it doesn't really matter as long as the name is there and then the rest of the entry is indented. Okay, and that can be tricky. So I attempted to discuss the blue arrow and the blue rectangle at the top and the tools, for like margins and all that. You can fool around with that if you want. Sometimes you can do it with spacing. I don't care how you do it, just get it done. Okay, that's why I run my company. Results, people. All right, so that's what I have for you today, and just carry on with your good work. Remember, look at the document of works cited examples, because as they come in, I'm adding them on, and you may find that someone else found a source that fits perfectly with the topic that you're discussing. Also, you can just be writing that paper, nothing to stop you. You look at all the instructions. It's going to be an 8-page ordeal. So you'll have a lot of different, research. That's a read for a while and just, absorb some things before you make up your mind what's what. Let's keep the mind open, keep the flow of input for a while, and just be taking notes, jotting it down. We've got the rough draft, then the final draft for the first half, and then we approach the second half the same way. Don't get too tangled up in that. Just remember that it counts as 2 essays. The first part is an essay. The first and the second part together are the final essay. They don't count as a final essay, just as another essay. So you have a chance really to revise the first half after you get that one graded. Okay, so that's it for today, and it's a Wednesday video. Don't miss it. Have a good one, and hopefully you'll get those all in on time. I can't do much more with the lateness as the semester goes on. I'm getting some emails because I get inundated with work myself towards the end of the semester, and I won't be here on the week of the 12th. So I'll get to you as best I can, but I may slow down a little bit on the emails then. So, all right, carry on, work hard. Listen to the podcast. It's a good one.